Now, terrorism. This is the Chambers English Dictionary. The systematic use of violence and intimidation to achieve some goal. So the Iraq War was terrorism. Why? Sanctions. Only a certain amount of oil could be used for certain things. Overflights were banned, and so on. 500,000 kids died. And Madeleine Albright said that's acceptable collateral damage. Terrorism. Then they launch a war on lies. Now let's look at Jihad. We blame the media, special interest lobbies, politicians, extremists, all contributed to the misunderstanding. But the main responsibility is ours. Why? Because one of us has taken the time to explain what Jihad really means. We, the mainstream Muslims, see Islam as a dynamic force to deliver humanity from the darkness of ignorance and oppression to the life of justice, mercy, peace, dignity and liberty for all. That's how we see Jihad. We should be the ones saying what Jihad is and is not. It is not holy war. And perhaps by the time I finish the next 5 slides, you will see why. Fighting is described in the Quran as something that is hated. So ordained for you even though it's hateful for you. But it may well be that you hate the thing while it is good for you. Root form of Jihad is Jahada, which means exerting maximum effort in striving. Not a question of winning. It's a question of changing the situation to something which is better. And if people then say, don't let's fight anymore, you stop. Even if you don't trust them. The theological connotation is striving for betterment. The major form is a daily struggle within ourselves for self-improvement. Elevation, purification and getting closer to God. Intellectual jihad. The truth is offered to the hearts and minds of the people through intellectual debate, wisdom, dialogue, exposing the facts in the Quran in a clear and convincing way. 16:125, invite all to the way of Islam with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and reason with them in the best possible manner. The methodology of talking to non-Muslims. Was Islam spread by the sword? I thought I had more on that, didn't I? Oh, that's all right. Was Islam spread by the sword? Many people say Islam spread by the sword. Which army went to the southeast of Asia and forcibly converted the Malays, the Indonesians and others to Islam? And you know the answer to that better than me, right? Which general was it? Wasn't anyone, right? It was the traders. Okay? But there'll be no compulsion in religion. Truth stands out clear from error. So there's no compulsion in bringing people to Islam. Not like what the Christians did at the Inquisition. They took a bucket of water and a mop, and had people standing in a line, and they said, say the confession of faith for a Christian, and just wipe their faces with this mop. That was baptism. That's what they did, on pain of death. Historian Gillespie of Leary wrote, history makes it clear, however, the legend of fanatical Muslims sweeping through the world and forcing Islam at the point of the sword of unconquered races is one of the most fantastically observed myths that historians have ever accepted. Islam at the crossroads. Christian activist says, Christians and Jews were not converted by the sword as is commonly taught and believed. Christians and Jews were allowed to keep and practice their religion within those areas where the Muslims had gained hegemony, gained control. Muslim ruled Spain for 800 years. It was the non-Muslims who forced them out. There are Christian and Jewish minorities in Egypt, Iran, Morocco, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen. How did they survive for so long in the middle of the Islamic Empire if Islam was spread by the sword? Islam spread east and west. By how many Muslims? How many Muslims went to China and forcibly converted? Islam is the fastest growing religion in the West. Which army is spreading it? Today. It's a joke. It's people, through their own analysis, through their own research, through their own findings. They see that what they're being told is not true. And that's one reason why after 9/11, why after 7/7, that we have more people coming to Islam than before. Because they're saying Islam is being demonized like this, let me find out for myself. And what they're finding out is that the truth is not the same as what they're being fed. But it's not the Muslims that are doing it. We're not telling them anything. Why was it that all the Qurans were sold out in America? I put methodology continued because following 1625, which I just told you, invite all to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching, etc. That's the methodology that we follow when we talk to people. But then, and do not debate with the people of the book except with the best words, according to Allah by means of his signs and by drawing attention to the proofs he has provided, except for those who remain obstinately upon an unbelief and would rather wage war. Well, do we have liars who obstinately believe something and wage war? Bush and Blair, for instance. So you don't debate with them. They're obstinate. A punishment for theft. All these things come on. I was in Saudi 23 years and I saw the hand amputated once. Now what people forget is that some people say, for instance, so if someone took an apple, are they going to have their hand cut? Are you absurd? Do you talk sense? For a hood crime, a major crime where capital punishment is involved or any real form of punishment is involved, it has to be a watertight case, or airtight if you prefer. Right? There can be no weak spot. There can be no element of doubt whatsoever. And then the judge, the Qadi, is empowered to look into the background of the criminal. Why did he commit the crime? What were the circumstances? What forced him to do it? Is there any chance of rehabilitation? And only when all these have been looked into and resolved that it is not possible, only then can the maximum punishment be invoked if it is indeed an airtight case. Now in the case where the hand was cut, which I saw, was the guy was on bank guard duty. He was a policeman. And in those days it was a cash society. People used to come into the bank, fill up their briefcase and go out with a briefcase full of money. It could be anything from about 50,000 to maybe 250,000 pounds. It would be in reals, but the equivalent. Because they were buying land in those days, and it was cash. And he broke into something like 27 cars. And he took 27 briefcases. So you can see the scale of the crime. And there was no possibility of rehabilitation. But that's not always the case. And when they analysed such cases in Saudi, they found that in 10 years, only 7 cases had actually been done. So it's nowhere near what people are thinking. It is not the first choice. It is not what is normally done. It is the exception, and only under very strict conditions. Let's just talk about this thief who commits after his crime. Adultery, fornication, take them and stone them. The time of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, the woman came to him and she said, I committed adultery and I want to be punished for it. And the Prophet turned away. She followed him and she said, I've done this, I want the punishment. He turned away. She said it again. After the third time, he said to her, are you pregnant? She said, yes. He said, go and have the baby. And if you want to, come back. So she went away, she had the baby, and she came back. And again, 3 times she spoke to him. The third time, he said to her, go away and wean the baby. That's 2 years. She went and she weaned the baby, and she came back. And she said, I want the punishment. Now he told them to punish her. So they took her outside and they stoned her. And they stoned her to death. And some blood fell on one of the young companions of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and the man cursed. And the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, do not curse her, because of people like her, Medina is such a pure city. So in other words, she wanted the punishment in this world and not in the hereafter. And it was her choice, and her choice alone. She was given chances that she could have gone away with the baby and not come back. In the case of a young man, he came and he confessed to the Prophet. He said he wanted to be punished. They took him outside to stone him, and he ran away. They went after him and they caught him and they killed him. And they came back and they told the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, what they had done. You know what the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said? It would have been better if you had let him go. I'm emphasising that if the thief repents after his coming and amends his coming, Allah turns to him and forgives. These things are not automatic. These things are not a question of you just do whatever you think. It's not so.